Hello, hello, hello. Good day, my friends. Or good evening, or good morning, or whatever. Depends on whether you're from Asia, Europe, or America, or anywhere else. Bunch of you already here. Wow. The bull market is back. People actually come to the show. It's quite funny. Like when you think about it, like prices go down, no one cares what you have to say, and then prices go up and people care. It's wild. Whereas, like, if you wanted to buy the bottom, like, like that would have been easier. But is what it is. Appreciated nonetheless. All the old and new viewers, always nice. Don, are you gonna have animals at your new castle? You should try and get some hippos. I've given up on the castle life. I really like the one that I tried to buy. I don't generally like castles, but I like the one that I wanted to buy. But it was not meant to be. So yeah, I actually bought a house a couple of days ago. So I mean, doesn't put anything in the way of a castle, but no plans. No plans. Yeah. Hi Don, been following you since 17 and just wanted to thank you for everything. You're the best on CT. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. We're trying. We're trying. We are eating bear steak tonight? Yeah, we are. Still in Germany? Still in Germany, yeah. I like it here somewhat. You can make an offer they can't refuse in the castle after the pump. I'm pretty sure they're gonna come back to me in a year or 2 or 3. So maybe it's gonna still be a thing, but probably not. And people are already asking for altcoins. It's the wrong stream, my friends. I suck at altcoin trading. I like to trade the boomer coins where I make like a 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x, and then it's enough for me at some point. But yeah, we'll go over some altcoins. It's quite funny because like I don't think I necessarily suck at analyzing these coins because the ones that we've been hyping up is Link and Solana mostly. Like that's 90% of it. Those are the two coins that are up like a gajillion percent. It's just I didn't buy them. Don West Cred, guys, you need to be a little bit kinder like this. Like, it's all fun and games, but I mean, at some point, it just gets too much. Like, people are making, for some reason, like rude comments. Just leave people alone. Like, I don't get it. Cred is gonna host the show tomorrow, most likely. Just couldn't make it on Monday. Anyway, let me actually get my setup a little bit better so I can see the chat. Oh, it's a mess because of all the moving and stuff. Return of Auckland first days? Yes, actually, yes. But yeah, before we start, or like properly start, because we've been talking for 5 minutes and didn't say a single useful thing. Thanks for watching, by the way. Big shout out to Woo for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate their support. Go check out their links in the description. It's been a pleasure working with them. So if you want to support us, the links in the description, do that. If not, also cool. We don't need no support. Hey Don, aren't you a bit worried about high funding rates? No. So the thing with high funding rates is that during bull markets, early bull markets, and during like big run-ups, like you can have high funding rates, and that's completely fine. I mean, people know that there's an ETF coming. It's very likely to come relatively soonish. So it makes sense for people to lever up, even bigger players. And I don't think that's necessarily at risk of getting wiped, that leverage. So I don't think it's necessarily the worst. It's not great. If funding was negative right now, obviously just long, close your eyes long and make a bunch of money. But I don't care about funding being high in quotation marks, because it's actually not that high. Hi, Dawn. How long on this consolidation before you get bearish? That was the time down here. If this would have taken too long, that would have been bad. Up here, it can take as long as it wants to, because if it just consolidates here and we get an ETF approval, you're going to get a massive candle to the upside. And then you can still sell if you're bearish into that. So the answer to that question is this can go for on for forever, basically. It's not going to make me bearish. Bitcoin at top of the range. I mean, Bitcoin's at monthly resistance. For me, there's no real range, nothing. We broke the range. Like 32K is the range low, which is very, very good to have underneath us. But yeah, let's start with the high time frames run through. I'll go through some comments, questions, whatever, while I'm doing that, because the chat is popping and some people actually post some interesting stuff. So I'll try to do both, but ducks are not good at multitasking. So if I'm missing your questions or your comments, just yeah, that's why. It's not because I don't it's not because I dislike you or because I don't like you. It's because I'm not. Ducks have too small of a brain to do both. Anyway, monthly at resistance, but fuck the monthly resistance, as I said weeks ago. We shouldn't have bearishly retested, in my opinion. Like, there's no real, and it's something I said last week and probably the week before, so it shouldn't be news to anyone that's watched before. But in general, for the people that are new, if you kind of go through the history, and I mean, on Bitstamp, for example, you get more history than here on BitMEX. You will see that bearish retests rarely perform well on the monthly chart. If anything, the monthly chart is to buy. So if the monthly chart is at support, you want to be buying or leaning bullish. But if the monthly chart is at resistance, especially if it's a significant range like this, more often than not, it actually just blows through. And I would be more bearish if we rallied into this on the ETF announcement, right? Like if we got Bitcoin ETF and we rallied into this level, but given we rallied into it before we got it, I think we can clear it. So for me, I'm ignoring this. It is still monthly resistance. It's still a valid bearish case that you had monthly resistance, but I'm just not team bear right now. I like the chart. What can I say? Even at resistance, I like it. Especially like on face value, for me, this is neutral, right? It's at resistance, but like I said, bearish retests usually don't go that well. And if they get invalidated, you usually get quite a big candle to the upside, right? So the monthly time frame is kind of neutral to me, but that's really good given this is actually the most bearish time frame we have. As in, out of monthly, weekly, daily time frames, this one is the worst, and it's, in my opinion, neutral. So it is at resistance, but there's other factors involved. And if you combine it with the fact that the Bitcoin ETF is very likely to be approved and is very likely to be approved soon, this month or next month, more likely than not, that paints for a rosy picture, especially given the weekly time frame just looks excellent. Like, I don't see a good reason to be bearish on the weekly time frame when it's back in the range, right? Like, this is this setup that you get. Like, this is the bullish setup that you get in crypto and in a lot of other markets too, but crypto is the best for this. You have a range, you lose it, that's bearish, but if you reclaim it, that's bullish. Now, technically speaking, like, we flipped bearish here, right? If you guys remember, like, we shouldn't have lost 60K. That's terrible. I flipped bearish there. Wrote this down. I tried to buy a couple times, didn't really work. Made barely any money on that, but didn't lose any. All the way down. technically, this is where you'd actually be buying for the first time if you were waiting for a bullish chart, right? Like just ignoring everything else. You sold here because that was just like, that was basically the same thing in reverse. You had a range. You had a range here. You broke to the upside. You really shouldn't have lost the range high, right? That's why I was bearish here. Technically, all of this down here is the same thing as this, just obviously a little bit more significant given it's more time spent. So technically speaking, should have just ignored everything. Bought here if you were a high time frame trader that doesn't really want to waste any time. Now, I got lucky enough to be able to buy at 16K, right? So I have a really good entry. But just from my system, I should be buying here. Now I bought here, which makes it nicer. But why would I be selling, like taking profit into where my system actually tells me to buy? So that's why looking at the weekly, I really don't get being bearish. The only way you can convince me, and I think that's being quite aggressive, right, is if we lose this range low down here. Because at that point, this was just like a test, like a bearish retest of the entire range, a little bit of a fake breakout, back into the range, you come back down. Then you can make the bearish argument. Didn't you sell after buying at 16K and later bought again higher? Yeah, so I bought here. It went up. I sold here. I rebought here. I sold here. I rebought the top here. And now we're there. So that's kind of how I've been trading it. I actually got even a sell in here and bought here. Now this obviously looks very hindsighty. If I just draw every single bottom and every single top, right? But this has been like, I mean, I've documented it all on Twitter and you can actually see it too, because I was kind of sick and tired of people pretending to be trading in a way they were not. So I started a Woo account where I copy traded my my spot buys and sells, right? So you can actually on Woo, which is the sponsor of the show, you can actually go, my profile on there is Gambling Quack. And you can see my P&L curve. It fits exactly with this. So it's not just me saying this in hindsight. I was saying it on stream, and I was saying it, and I was obviously trading it, and there's receipts for that. But that's kind of been how I've been trading this. Now, obviously, that buy wasn't great. I was actually getting ridiculed for it because I could have bought lower. But in the end of the day, I just didn't want to miss this move, right? So that's all of that. But you cannot see all trades on the Woo account. Yeah, but you can just, I mean, I can tell you, I traded Bitcoin and I traded a little bit of Litecoin, and you can just basically overlay the chart on that. I think the first move, like the first thing I traded on Bybit, because my original idea was doing it all on Bybit. But then I ran into tax trouble, so I switched to Woo. Anyway, have you traded in the last week or just holding? I'm just holding. I'm too lazy. Does WooX show your position? No, but you can kind of infer it, right? Like basically every day the leaderboard updates, and you can tell in what kind of position I'm in. Right now I'm in a Bitcoin long on that, which basically is the exact same thing I've been talking about, right? Like when I take a Bitcoin long on Woo, I'm spot, like I bought spot somewhere. Anyway, enough about that. No need to cloud chase. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really get the point of being bearish unless we lose 32K. That's really not that far down, right? Like I'm down to give back 10%-ish of this rally. It's basically like a trade of sorts. Now, obviously, and please don't take this trade. But basically in the trade at this point, right, is like you lose 32K. That would probably be me exiting my position, right? This would be the trade, right? And this trade just makes sense. Now, I'm obviously in a completely different trade, But yeah, if we lost this, then the setup isn't there anymore. Maybe I'll close, maybe I won't. I think I would probably, but until that happens, I just don't see the point, right? We're in a trade where target is far away and invalidation is close enough to warrant the trade. Avavat sent me here. I have no idea how to pronounce his name. I've only ever seen it written, but that is very nice of him. If Bitcoin tops, is it good to Swift immediately to ETH or trade to USD, wait to dip and Bitcoin and then buy ETH? Probably the second. But like I said, I mean, I'm not a fan of ETH right now. Like, it gets worse and worse, and the sentiment is horrendous. So we'll see if that flips. You'll see me buy ETH maybe, but and this is something I've been saying for weeks and weeks, right? And I've been kind of getting like pushback left, right, and center from ETH tards. I've been saying any altcoin is fair game that is not ETH. And now you see Link double, Solana double. A bunch of others go up massively. ETH completely shits the bed, right? Like, this looks horrendous, but we'll get over it. We'll go over it. But yeah, ETH, I don't like the chart. And until that changes, there's gonna be no talking about rotating into ETH. What? Yeah, maybe. I have no idea though. So yeah, that's that. That's the weekly time frame for me. Like I said, bullish until we lose range low at the minimum, and then bullish until like maybe someone asked if there's any resistance at 40k. There is. I just don't like it. There's one at 43. If we push into that on the ETF news, I might actually sell and then see how it goes. At that point, I'm up more actually than this because, like I said, I closed and opened my position over and over and over again, but I'd be up like 170%. That's quite a sick move. And if that happens into hype, like, I'm down to sell. Yeah, so, but it depends. It all depends. Right now, I don't have any plans to sell. There's too many messages for me to read them all. Is there time invalidation for you? The only invalidation is the moment you get the ETF approval, or if you get a denial, I'm more likely to sell. But there is nothing of the like, oh, I'm bearish because it's taking too long. If anything, the longer this takes here, like, it's establishing itself in the old range. That's a bullish thing, not a bearish thing, right? So, yeah. So that's that. Where you buy of Sol, I don't know. Probably not gonna buy it. I don't buy stuff that's up a shitload, even though, like, and this is the worst advice, so don't take it. But I just don't buy it. A lot of, like, the best trades that you're gonna have are probably the ones that are up a lot. But me, I don't buy stuff that is not close to invalidation. So you're not gonna see me, like, maybe down the line, like, if it giga nukes for, like, let's say Bitcoin rallies towards 45k and Solana Bitcoin just completely craters, maybe, because then I can find an invalidation that is close enough for me to make sense. But otherwise, like, I don't care. Like, if I miss Solana, I don't care. It goes to top 2 market cap, it flips ETH, couldn't care less. They already pump on. No, that's not really what it is though. Like, for me, it's not because I don't think, like, I like this chart and I think Solana is probably gonna go higher, right? But it, for me, depends on the setup more so than did it pump already or not, right? Like, where is my invalidation here? It'd be below 28, like a close below 28. And if I'm not in from lower, that's uncomfortable. So I know, like, good chart probably goes up, but if I don't get a setup, I'm just never going to buy something, even though, like, my gut feeling might say up, my whatever. If I don't have the setup, I'm not buying it. And that might be a flaw in my trading, but it's done me decently well. But yeah, I do tend to miss out on the biggest movers. Like, it's just how it is, and I'm completely fine with that. So that's that. Bitcoin weekly looks great. There's resistance at 43k, but I think it's FUD. I think there's a chance we push past it, and it depends though. If we pump into it with good news and we get like a little bit overheated, I could see something like this, where you get a pump, where you get a retrace, quite steep one, where we are right now, a pump, maybe a little bit lower, and then come back up. Could see that happen. I might try to take advantage of that, like I did on the way up. But what you always have to consider is that if you miss an entry, maybe you don't get one towards 60k, and that would kind of suck, right? Missing those 15k price movement would kind of suck. But for me, and this is something that I always like to say, because people kind of like, they find someone that has been right, and then they just do the exact same. But I'm in a completely different situation than most of you guys. I don't have any kind of like attachment to this stuff, right? Like, I don't care if I miss a pump. I don't care if the space goes to infinity or zero. As long as I get setups that I can trade, I'll probably trade it. But I'm here to kind of make money. I don't care about the whole, oh, I got this pump, I missed this, blah, blah, blah. Couldn't care less, right? But if you care, and a lot of people do care, even if they think they don't, like they see something go up 5x and they're agonizing over it. It's not me. So we're in a different situation. So you have to kind of always consider your own circumstances and your own way of trading. So for me, like I said, if I miss something, I miss something. I couldn't care less. But I've seen people say the same and then chase stuff that is up 100x. So yeah. Anyway, Bitcoin right now on the daily time frame, there's really not that much to say. It's just walking up. Doesn't get much better than that. Yeah, I mean, if you look back through the history, whenever you find these kind of move ups, obviously it's nice at bottoms, but it's also nice during up moves. Like this kind of pushing up is quite nice. Can obviously break down whatever, blah, blah, blah. For me, it seems unlikely given the Bitcoin ETF backdrop. So if you get a sharp nuke, always possible, right? To wash out some leverage. There's a lot of people waiting to buy that. I think a lot of people are underexposed to Bitcoin. Could you see a potential dip to 32 to 33k or too strong PA? I think it's unlikely, but if you get it, that's a really nice buy. Like if you get a leverage wipeout into 33, 32, that's sick. That's a sick entry, I think. But for me, seems somewhat unlikely at this point. Stairs up, yeah. Stairs and then like slowly and then very quickly, usually. Buy the rumors, sell the news, yes. But the news have not hit yet. If you puke, it's after the news. That's what I think too, or into it. But that's unlikely. Like I think after the news is like the most likely for a nuke. So like in general, like everyone kind of understands, like the bears, the smart bears, I've seen a lot of dumb bears lately, but the smart bears know that they just need to wait for the ETF to be announced and then it's a sell the news event, right? Like if you're bearish and then you sell and you make a bunch of money and you're happy because prices are up quite high. So you can short it quite far down. Like that's the bearish viewpoint, right? That's a sensible bearish viewpoint. You're like, there's a big news event coming. Why would I be selling while people are accumulating for the news event? If anything, I want to dump on the idiots that are buying the news event, right? Now, the bullish case is just, okay, it just keeps going up. Also possible. The dumb bearish argument is like it's went up a lot, so it has to go down. And this is kind of like what I said about Solana, right? Like just because Solana went up a lot doesn't mean it has to go down. It just means that people actually want to buy this thing. So there's no way to think, and that's no way to short, right? Like anyone that actually shorts because something is up a lot is a complete and utter moron. And this is coming from someone that's shorted like back in the day, like the majority of leverage trades that I was doing was shorting, right? Like from basically I started like leverage trading at like 5 or 6K down here, like before everything was spot, which I think is still the better play. But when I was leverage trading from basically like 6K all the way towards 20, 30K, like this was basically where I was leverage trading in between there. Most of my trades were actually shorts, but I was never shorting because something was up a lot. You short because you have a setup and because you have a good reason to believe that something is going to go down. Not just, this is strong, right? Like if you think about it, like that's what you're saying. Like this is a strong asset, let me short it. Like that's just fucking dumb. Why if you said ETF is priced in? Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, like for me, anyone that's friends, like big butt buddies with people that are verifiably doing scammy, shady, whatever stuff, are more than likely doing the same, right? So, and yeah, that's what I'm gonna say about that one. And the perma bears, for some reason, the CT perma bears are all doing the same thing, selling expensive groups to people that don't know better. Hey Doug, considering what you just said about the Sell in News event, past ETF approval is not advisable to form altcoin rotations. I think it might be for a little bit, but I think so. If the bearish case actually plays out, right? And I don't know. There's also a world in which it just keeps going up, right? So like, just take that with a grain of salt. But if the bearish way plays out, how it would go, right? So, and I'm drawing this on a blank slate because then people are not going to take it as price predictions, right? But let's say you get the ETF in here, right? I think altcoins will do somewhat well during the 1 or 2 days where this is going to top. Then you're going to get a Bitcoin, and this is Bitcoin. And then you're going to get a Bitcoin pullback, and this is if the bearish case plays out. Bitcoin pullback and altcoins are probably going to nuke even harder than Bitcoin will. And then you're going to get, and this is, like I said, bearish. I just want to make sure that people understand this is the bearish scenario. You get a bounce, and that bounce here, that leg will be much stronger on altcoins. And then you actually just walk down. Like that's the bearish case. And the bullish case would be, for me, very similar, just that it does this and then just goes up and sucks out even more liquidity out of altcoins. And then you get this later. But in general, altcoins as a whole, besides like outliers, and we have a bunch, feel kind of good that we talked about the outliers, because usually people just give me shit because I didn't buy this and that and that. At least we talked about it. So some of you might have bought them. But in general, altcoins do best during this leg of the market. Like from down here to up here, that's where altcoins generally as a whole outperform more often than not. But it could all just, I mean, it's not a guarantee, right? Just because it played out in the past doesn't, yeah. Don, do you give any weight on the funding rates? Bybit and BitMEX quite high, 0.02. No. I mean, short term, yeah, maybe you get like a bunch of like leverage wipes, whatever. I don't really care though. Like if you compare historic funding rates when the market was bullish to what it is right now, it's actually not that bad. And in general, it just kind of makes sense to me with the ETF news coming. Like people are positioning themselves for it, which not great. Obviously would be better. Like I said at the beginning of the show, would be better if that was not the case. But sometimes you get high funding rate and then the market explodes, spot catches back up during the impulse move, and then the funding rate resets even though like the market didn't go down. So just because funding goes higher than 0.01, which is quite hilarious, right? Because that's technically the baseline, or used to be anyway. Like people are afraid when it goes away from the baseline a little bit. Funding rates have stayed up for weeks and months at a time in previous bull markets. Any good price to enter long? I mean, if you get 32 to 33, that's really good. Otherwise, like I said, I don't think that's going to happen. But if you do get it, that's really good. Anything beyond that, I just don't know. I mean, if you're buying here, you might get wiped by a wick towards that support. But also, if you don't buy here, it might just keep going up. So, like when it's in this kind of mode, I cannot give you good advice. This is why I buy support. This is why I buy lower, because then I don't have to make these hard choices. I wouldn't want to leverage up right now at 30, 35, 7. Like that would feel uncomfy. But also, I would hate not being in a position right now, because that just fucking sucks. So, yeah. It's important to position early, in my opinion. And anyone telling you otherwise is just like, because if you buy here and then where do you put your stop? Like below 30K? It's quite a bit away, especially if it's a low time frame trade. Because at that point, you're targeting 43 and your stop loss is like pretty much exact same distance away. It's a little bit of a tough one. So the answer is like, should have bought earlier, or yeah. If not, you just buy and pray. But there's no good trade, in my opinion, to be had. Like, at least for me, right here. Like, would I short here? Never. Like, that seems dumb. Would I long here? Probably not either. I like to long support and short resistance. I don't really short anymore, but that is much more comfy than just in the middle of fucking nowhere for both. I've only ever held spot. Is it worth using low leverage rather than depositing more capital? Take this from me, right? And I mean, technically, if people sign up with like Reflinks or whatever, I make money, right? But I tell everyone that they should not be trading leverage. I think no one should be trading leverage. It's not because it's bad. I think leverage is a great tool to be used. But because it's basically like a forbidden fruit of sorts. Like you take a bite, you're going to take more. Every single person I've ever talked to that has traded leverage went from, I'm going to use this reasonable, to I'm going to be a fucking idiot very, very fast. Even the smartest people I know, right? So leverage is not bad. And I mean, if you've used it for a few years and you've kind of went through the ups and downs, it's a great tool, but it's going to make you do dumb shit. And you doing dumb shit early on in the bull market or in general is just not great. It's basically how people lose money. The spot traders that I know make more money than the leverage traders I know. And not necessarily because they're just richer from the get-go, but because there is... there's no risk of blowing up, basically, or much less so. Cheers, I find the concept really stressful. Yeah, it is stressful. It's not great. Like, if you buy Bitcoin, right, and this is like, if you buy Bitcoin spot, and you're like, I'm buying this for a trade, but I generally like Bitcoin. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Your trade goes to shit, but, I mean, you want to have a position anyway, right? Like, you can be quite chill about it. And if you buy low enough, usually it's actually like still decent, right? Like if you bought 20K and then it goes to 16K on leverage, you'd be stopped out. But if you're like 20K is still a good price, I wish I bought 16K, but 20K is still a good price. If it's just spot, it doesn't really matter. And if I tell this to any serious trader, they're gonna kill themselves hearing this, but it's just how it is. Like I've had a bunch of trades, like for example, back down here at 3 and 4K. Like I bought a bunch at 4K spot. Pretty much went all in my life savings at like almost 4K, like at 4K. And it nuked to 3. And I was like, yeah, but 4K is still a really good price. Like, I mean, 4K for Bitcoin, that seems like still pretty damn decent. I leveled up a little bit at 3K, mostly on ETH actually back then, but I leveled up at 3K, 3.3-ish, whatever. But if I did all of this on leverage at 4K, I would have just been fucked, right? Like, can you sit through a 25% drawdown in leverage? Very unlikely, even if it's low leverage, right? So, and then at the end of the day, I made a bunch of money with that, right? Like that 4K buy that was terrible in hindsight turned out great in hindsight now, right? Like if you could buy Bitcoin at 4K now, you'd be ecstatic. So, it's just, I think it kind of pushes you to do dumb shit, basically. That's what leverage does. So that's that. So yeah, that's Bitcoin. It's pushing, like it's been going up, down, whatever. A bunch. This is a bunch of leverage apes just getting wrecked, like on both sides. I wouldn't pay this too much mind. I think in general, like as long, and this is meme lines, but I actually, like I've been kind of like loosely tracking this on the 4 hour because I've been bored. This is why I made the post like about Bitcoin move soon, because it was like the set support probably gonna go up. Anyway, as long as it kind of tracks this trajectory, I think we're good. And then until then, you just get a bunch of leverage ape, basically leverage apes getting wiped out. Doesn't really impact the chart at all, the higher time frames. But yeah, that's Bitcoin. Going to ETH, right? I just really dislike this chart. This is bearish to me. And the commentary I've seen everywhere else, besides on this channel, has been bullish on this. Donna, I've never seen you use so many high vocabulary words, and I'm saying this is a compliment. What the fuck's that supposed to mean? Oh, shit. The guy's like, Don isn't speaking like a 4th grader anymore. What happened? Oh, shit. It is what it is. Ay. High vocabulary words. Ay. Have you ever had more Bitcoin than right now? Yeah. A lot more. So it's something I discussed on the show before, but what I do is so I have my crypto portfolio, and back like for the longest time, right? And let's do this on Bitcoin. For basically all the way until here, I was all in my entire life savings in crypto. Sometimes in Tether, sometimes in Bitcoin, but generally all in, right? Always ready to deploy literally everything I had. Down here, I did the same, which like not all of it, but a large chunk, which made me uncomfortable. But I was like, this is too good of a trade not to take it. But what I have decided over the last few years is basically that I'm never gonna, like I've always take money out of crypto. I never put new money in. So basically I have crypto allocation, right? And I was all in for pretty much all of this, but I would always take out, live my life off of that money that I was taking out, right? And ever since like basically during that run down and run back up, I've just been cutting my crypto portfolio and pushing it into the real world. So like I've had much more, yes. And I plan to reduce my crypto portfolio more and more. With every year, I want to have it be a smaller percentage of my net worth. Now, obviously, when the market moves like this, what happens? You have your normal portfolio and you have your crypto portfolio, and this just goes like this, and then you have to start over again, cutting, because it's getting stupid big again. But that's a luxury problem to have, if anything, right? But yeah, I want to have crypto be like 5 or 10% of my portfolio generally in the next like 5 years or so. So I just like, for me in general, like the longer crypto goes, the less I want to have in it. Isn't crypto real world? For me, it's just like literally everything I like in crypto that I have is meme money. It literally doesn't exist for me. Where does the rest go? I mean, for now, like I basically just bought like a bunch of government bonds. And I mean, I bought a house, and I'm kind of like just sitting, waiting till I see something in the stock market or see something elsewhere. But for now, it's just basically all just like trying to not get inflated away too much. But it's in the real world, it exists, and that's quite cool. And yeah, for me, this is all like always has been. Like anything that I have had in crypto is gone. Like the moment I put money in crypto, for me that was gone, and it's never kind of like, it's not like I'm calculating anything based on the crypto money I have. Like I just pull money out, pay taxes, all of that kind of stuff. But for me, money in crypto isn't real. If there was a crypto black swan event, would you add a load back into crypto? No. I have just one rule. It's something I've always had, that any money that I've pulled out, I cannot put back in. So the money that I have right now is as much as I'm ever going to have. If I don't trade it up, it's going to get less and less and less. It's just how it goes. There's not going to be any new money coming in from me. Sailor thinks Bitcoin is always going up. Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, like with the Bitcoin I have now, if it goes to infinity, I'm going to be fine, right? Like, I don't get what the, like, if you think Bitcoin is going to 1 million, who the fuck cares, right? Like, doesn't matter. Like, even if you have 99% out, like if you pulled out 99% of your portfolio, if you have 1% left and Bitcoin goes to 1 million, you're going to be fine. There's no need to be the richest man on the planet, at least not for me. I don't see the point. I'd much rather just pull out, diversify, and just go from there. Are you into charity, and do you consider yourself lucky? Yeah, I do donate quite a bunch. Yeah, I would say I got quite lucky. How is crypto not real if you live in a real house bought out of crypto fake money? I mean, someone fucking bought the fake money and gave me real money for it. I mean, I appreciate it. It's like a game, you know? Like if you're playing whatever Diablo, like if you think about it like Diablo 3, for the people that have played Diablo 3 with the real money auction house, whatever, some idiots are dumb enough to buy your gear for real money. That's kind of how I treat it. Mic issue? No one else has complained, so but yeah, let me know if there's a problem. Hey Doug, have you published a newsletter yesterday? I haven't received one in the past 2 weeks. I'm sorry about that. I actually locked myself out of the email account. You're gonna get one next week. For now, just go on my Twitter profile. I actually posted a link to the PDF. So like if you just scroll back to a free tweets. Yeah. Kevin says my mic is muted. Yeah, as usual. Thanks. So yeah, that's that. That's Bitcoin. Like I said, I kind of talked about it briefly earlier. ETH, like that chart is horrendous. That chart is terrible. Now, obviously, charts look terrible at the bottom. Blah blah blah. Whatever. No one gives a shit. This is a bearish chart, right? And if we kind of stay consistent, right? Because an argument that people make all the time is like the chart has to look bad for this to be the bottom. But the thing is, if you're consistent and you're like, I'm bullish Bitcoin because the chart looks good, then you have to be consistent on the other side too and be like, this is bearish because the chart is shit, right? And if you just kind of throw out your system and you're like, ETH looks so shit, I just want to buy it, then I mean, just remove the system altogether. Doesn't really make any sense. But for me, according to my system, right, and according to the way I look at things, this is just bearish. You basically had a range here that lasted for more than 2 years that broke to the downside. Now, we had a bearish retest last week, and every single time Bitcoin does anything to the upside, ETH BTC just starts nuking, right? And this is something that you've been seeing in the last few hours, something you've been seeing over the last few months. And that's not good. And for me, it doesn't really make much sense to be bullish on ETH over Bitcoin, right? You can be bullish ETH USD and you could just ignore that Bitcoin exists because you would more likely than not make more money with Bitcoin. But fair enough, like ETH USD might go up. If Bitcoin goes up, you're going to make money on ETH USD. But when the ETH BTC chart is this bad, in my opinion, it just makes more sense to concentrate on Bitcoin. And there's multiple levels where, in my opinion, you could make the argument that it's starting to flip and the bearish kind of trend is over. And you can see, right? You can see the bearish parabola. Like people just try to to close their eyes to it. But I mean, this wouldn't surprise me, right? Like if this continued and kind of just nuked. Now, obviously, if it nukes to 0.04, you're actually going to see me buy it because at that point, I'm like, it actually looks so bad that I might actually buy it, but bad in a good way, right? As in it's back to previous levels of support because there's really nothing here, right? There's a level here. There's nothing here. It's at resistance. So we're kind of in a gap that is this wide, which is quite a bit. So in my opinion, if Bitcoin rallies, if we get ETF candle towards like 40, 45, 50K, you're probably going to see ETH BTC struggle a lot. And I think it's just one of the worst altcoins to buy generally. Not long term, but right now. It's too, I think you have the same people buy Bitcoin and ETH. So what I'm trying to say, right? So you have a reasonable person here. Let's call him R for reasonable. And you have a really dumb person here, right? Let's call him D for dumb, all right? And this is kind of like how it goes. In crypto, you're either like reasonable or you're dumb. I think you can make money on both sides. And then there's like some people that are just like in between, whatever. But most people are either like completely reasonable. I mean, I'm sad that I did R because now I always think about retarded, but I would just ignore that. But this is a reasonable person, right? And the reasonable person, what he's gonna do, right? And how like the thought process looks like is you're either gonna buy Bitcoin or you're gonna buy ETH, right? And the dumb person, this one here, yeah, the dumb person is always just gonna buy dumb shit. He doesn't get, like, they don't buy Bitcoin and ETH. Like, they don't give a fuck. Like, why would you buy Bitcoin and ETH? Those are boomer coins. Who the fuck cares? I want to buy my Bitcoin, whatever, Sonic, Obama, Inu, whatever the fuck. And I want to have it now, right? Those are like, this is the dumb people, right? And I mean, you can make money being dumb in crypto and you can make money being reasonable, right? But like, that's the thing. Like, they're not going to get anywhere close to Bitcoin and ETH, right? So they don't really matter. Like, basically what I'm trying to say, and I mean, this is going to be a little bit complicated because I'm the one saying it and I don't usually make sense, but the reasonable people, right? The only ones that would ever buy Bitcoin or ETH, like the only ones that drive this thing up, are obviously going to choose Bitcoin because it's just like you're getting a Bitcoin ETF. So the more people on here, like they only have two choices. They buy Bitcoin or ETH. So a lot of them go here. And the dumb people, they're not going to touch ETH. So who the fuck is left to buy? Not that many, actually. Right? Like, the moment you have the Bitcoin narrative, you're taking away ETH buyers. Like, people would actually buy ETH, but they're deciding otherwise because they're like, I'm just going to play the ETF narrative. That just makes sense. Because they're reasonable, right? Like, that's a reasonable thought. Like, you're like, there's a narrative. Let me buy this. Now, the dumb people, they're obviously not going to buy ETH because that's not dumb enough for them. They're going to buy the dumbest shit on the planet. So at the end of the day, you don't have anyone left to buy ETH. Now, obviously, that can shift at some point, because you can also make the argument if you get a Bitcoin ETF, you're going to get an ETH ETF, right? And that's fair enough. But I think for that to kind of come into play, you want to have a little bit of time pass. Because I think, one, the ETH ETF is not as like a sealed deal as people make it out to be. There's a shitload of activity on ETH. There's much less on Bitcoin. So it's just inherently more complicated. There's more kind of arguments to make against ETH. Like Bitcoin just doesn't do shit, right? So you're like, on the fundamental side of things, you can be like, yeah, there's market manipulation, but that's it, right? With ETH, you have a lot of like a bigger, much bigger kind of ecosystem. It's a little bit more complicated. So like for me, basically with the Bitcoin narrative, people are just like drawn to Bitcoin, and ETH doesn't get new buyers. Like I said, if price goes low enough, that might change. At that point, people are like, okay, now looks better. But at this point, I don't see the point. Unless, and now we go back to the levels. I just explained why it doesn't make sense to buy ETH to me, right? Because like the thing is, like the dumb people, right? The dumb people that I had down here, they can pump markets just fine, right? Solana went 2x, Link went a bunch up, right? So you're quite happy there. Like there's risk to take and it's reasonable. It's just ETH is not dumb enough, in my opinion. Anyway, at the levels that I'm watching for ETH, to kind of like, because you always have to have on this kind of stance, right? Because I mean, this all just makes sense in my eyes. Like I think about it and like, this is just so fucking obvious. It just makes a lot of sense, right? But you always have to kind of have a safety line in check. Like you always have to have like a way to ensure yourself that you're not being dumb, right? Because I could be like, just like I could be like midwitting it too, being like, thinking about the reasonable people and the dumb people and blah, 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 where it's just a bunch of people basically, they're like, Bitcoin went up, ETH should go up next, right? So I could be wrong is what I'm saying. And I think I'm going to be wrong above 0.064. Now we've been kind of bearish since here on ETH. So it's still like, it's not like that's like the biggest loss. But I think at that point, you kind of reclaim the old range, you come back up, and I would probably buy before this happens, but this is like the line in the sand where I think it gets dumb if you continue being bearish above here. And I think at that point, you probably break the range to the upside. And then you can have much higher targets. Then from here, you can have the 2x in play on the Bitcoin pair, right? But that's kind of like my invalidation, because you reclaimed the range, you kind of nuked all of the bearishness on the chart. The chart actually starts looking good above here. Now, you can be more aggressive and flip here. I think flipping above this level is too aggressive. But that's kind of how I look at it. And then ETH's just not that interesting. And when ETH's not that interesting, in general, it's quite hard to get excited about any boring altcoin. Like, for example, if ETH is not interesting, I don't see a point in ever buying Litecoin. I mean, I generally don't see a point in buying Litecoin. But even more so in those kind of circumstances. The same with like a lot of the other ones, right? Like the really boring ones that don't have anything, they're not that interesting. You have to look for like the smaller stuff, the Links, the Solana, or the really dumb meme coins. So yeah, that's kind of how I look at it. We were bullish Link at 8, now it's 14. I don't have any. Is how it goes. I'm not coping. I'm just sad inside. No, it's just how it is. Look, we even had this where we're like, you kind of get the range, you break the range high, you usually go up. In this case, it did. Still looks great. Obviously, it's going to pull back eventually, but I'm not going to call any tops. I'm just also not going to buy. Like, this could go back to all-time high. I wouldn't be surprised. But where the fuck is the invalidation? The invalidation is 50% lower. So if this nukes, right? For whatever reason, I might actually get some because I like to buy reasonably close to support. And if I don't get that, I don't get it. So yeah, that's kind of how I look at these. There's a few good looking ones. A lot of not so good looking ones, especially if Bitcoin takes off. I think a lot of the Bitcoin pairs are going to suffer. We've had a little bit of a mean reversion season going on though. Like AVAX, I shit talked this for the last, technically, whatever, for the last 2 years, a little bit less. Just had a little bit of a bounce, but nothing great, right? But this is still like, and this is why people are euphoric, because this is like a 20% move. I mean, that's actually quite sad, considering all the other stuff. AVAX still being a little bit shit, but generally speaking, people are kind of excited. But for me, I think if Bitcoin runs, the shitty altcoins, like for example AVAX or Litecoin or whatever, they're probably going to give back all of what they've made in Bitcoin terms. And yeah, the bottom signal stuff, is just for the people that don't know. Whenever someone, like when I bear posted about altcoins and someone was like, hey, this is a bottom signal, I put a bottom signal on the chart, and it's been fun watching it. And yeah, this was the whole Star Arena, whatever shit. Oh yeah. Yeah, I made fun of them for being dumb. Didn't you consider buying the weekly range breakout or Link? Yeah, I did. I was like, this is actually a good setup. But at the end of the day, I was like, I'm more focused on Bitcoin. I wanna make sure I get that right. But yeah, should have obviously, in hindsight, taken that Link trade. Also should have taken the Solana trade, but it's what it is. Don, this is great, but then the opportunity to trade becomes so little. If you go by this logic, should we risk a lot and only take such trades? I mean, that's just, personal preference, right? Whatever you're good at. I'm not good at chasing stuff. Like if something is up 2x, like Solana, and it's far away from invalidation, like I'm just not good at trading that way. There's a lot of people that are good trading this way. So I like to kind of buy big and heavy when I see opportunity, just like I did at 16K. I don't like to just do a bunch of business when something's up a lot and I'm like, oh, I want to get in on this. Like I don't trade that well in those circumstances. And I'm a different, like I used to trade everything in every time frame. I'm just now in a different, like I'm just trading differently. Like with the time comes changes to your trading style. So you don't have to copy me. It's just how I think about markets. Doesn't have to mean that you have to think or do the same. If anything, you should do your own. Because I don't know you and you don't know like what's going on in my head. So you should be making your own stuff up. This is just basically to explain my thought process. And for example, and this is something like I've had a commenter basically over the years, basically ever since 2018, that has been telling me whenever I'm super bullish Bitcoin, he's been buying the biggest dog shit on the planet and he's made riches, like a shitload of money, basically just doing whatever I don't do, which is just going completely dumb whenever I'm bullish. And he's made a shitload of money doing it. And fair enough. A bunch of people ignore all of the things that I say about Bitcoin. As in, like, they take it in, they're like, he's bullish Bitcoin, I'm buying altcoins. And that's more than fair. And yeah, I'm not giving any advice to anyone. I'm just kind of like explaining how I think about the market. Would you short TRB? I don't even know what the fuck that is. I don't follow the flavor of the day, flavor of the week stuff. Dawn, doesn't it scare you that altcoins are popping and Bitcoin is just chopping at resistance? It doesn't, because ETH is not doing anything. As long as ETH is shit, the altcoins can do whatever they want. Basically, ETH is a large chunk of the market. We've had a bunch of altcoins go wild. This is the Bitcoin dominance chart. It's because ETH is shit right now. And unless that changes, I don't really see too much of a risk. Unless Dogecoin like doubles or triples. But like these kind of moves, like these 2 to 10% moves on the day, don't get me worried too much. So, do you think XRP is reaching a ceiling? I don't know. Don't really care. Like, there's no good chart here. This is a narrative play. People are betting on the outcome of the lawsuit, whatever. I don't have any color to add on this. It broke out, which is good. As long as it's above 0.6, I think that's a good looking USD chart. On the Bitcoin pair, that just kind of looks like shit. So, for me, like these kind of charts, I just don't trade. It's too choppy. It's not interesting. So, but yeah, that's that. Hope that all made sense. For the other altcoins, I mean, I'm just not the right guy to ask. I've come to terms with that. I've tried back in the day, and I will when I see the general market be in a position where altcoins should thrive, talk about them more. But right now, like for me, it makes more sense to focus on Bitcoin and focus on ETH. Those are the ones, like as long as, like I said, ETH stays down, you can do whatever you want with your altcoins. As long as Bitcoin goes up and ETH stays down, I think you're somewhat safe. But yeah, I'm not doing any business there, so it doesn't really make much sense for me to kind of share my insights or lack thereof. So I will spare you those. But yeah, appreciate you guys coming by. Big shout out to Woo for sponsoring the show. Like I said, their links are in the description. Go check them out. And yeah, it's been fun. It's been a pleasure. It's a lot of people actually. Bull market's back, baby. Oh, that's going to be the topper. The more I say this, the more bearish it is. But anyway, just make sure that you have some Bitcoin if you can. The worst thing to kind of happen, in my opinion, is when you're sitting at the sidelines on a Bitcoin solo run, right? It's just something I've seen in 2017. I've seen a few people lose their minds over it. It's not the vibe. No financial advice. Make sure you have Bitcoin. Yeah, it's not financial advice. I'm just saying, like, if you're in crypto in general, you want to have some Bitcoin, right? People are like, oh, it's breaking out. Bros, stop it. The more you type this, the more wicks you're going to get. Oh no. That's just how it goes, huh? You guys had to jinx it. But yeah, doesn't really matter. Like I said, it's all low time frame shenanigans. But yeah, this is what you guys did. It's on you guys, not on me. I didn't comment on this. Anyway, much love. We'll see each other on Friday, more likely than not. Bye bye.